Hey, what's up, my Sci enthusiasts? Today we are back with another episode of Sci Games Talks. And we're here with my co host, Tyler Stevens, and our guest today is Vincent Genna. And so, a lot of you have probably seen his beautiful face out there doing magnificent things. I've never met anybody with hair like that, which makes me think that he is indeed an angel.
Yeah,
It
like,
doesn't even.
like Moses that went up on the mountain and came down with white hair. That did not happen to me. No, I had kids.
So, Vincent, tell us a little bit about yourself, really briefly condensed, and we can jump off from there because you're going to be one of the speakers at the Side Games, and we just want to hear from you. So,
oh, fabulous. Okay. Well, thank you for having me here. This is fabulous. What a great opportunity, too. Well, I started out as a professional singer, actor, and dancer many years ago. And I went from that to becoming a psychic therapist, a medium, a spiritual teacher, and an author. And that happened all because I just wanted to help a friend of mine who was in desperate need, and I had no idea how to help him. As an actor, we needed the help. You know what I mean? So it was an easy transition to go from needing help to being the helper. I love that part because it was all emotional anyway. But what happened is, like I said, he needed some help. I cried out to Source, to God, give me the ability to be able to help my friend here. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help him. And all of a sudden, I was thrust into this whirlwind of paranormal, psychic ability, mediumship ability, spiritual downloading, all of that. And then it's just been leading up to, I've done study and research in this. This has been going on in my life now, going on 42 years of doing this work. Yes, you would never know. I started at 5 years old. No, I never like giving away. When I say that I've done this work for 42 years, it's like I've been married to my wife. It's going on 47 years with her. So I give away my age with that. You know what I mean? I'm an antique. You know, anything over 40 years is an antique. So that's how I got started in this as a psychic therapist. Oh, and I went back to school, though. The therapist part comes in from, since I was getting into human minds and their psyche, really deep down into their darkest of places, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't causing any damage. So I actually went back to school as an adult. We had 2 children. I went back to school full time. I graduated UNC at Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. With my BA in psychology and my master's in clinical social work. So I did become a psychotherapist. So you can say I'm both psychic and psycho. It's true.
So when you got into this world, you helped your friend, and then you started. And how did that jump happen? So yeah, I helped my friend, and then I saw that I helped my friend. And how does that transition into you doing more of this work? Because there's still that factor, and I can imagine in some people's mind where they'd be like, there must be there's disbelief still. Was it really me? Maybe it wasn't, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my gosh.
And they talk themselves out of it. They get imposter syndrome. They may not feel like, I'm not capable of this on the long term. So how did you get to this point from that point?
I don't know if I transitioned from that point yet. I'm still, seriously, is that even on a daily basis, I always check myself to make sure that I'm doing everything for the right reason and the right intentions. And I didn't know in the beginning. I did think that I was going crazy. I did think that why would this be happening to me? All of a sudden I'm being told that I was going to be a spiritual teacher. Everything fit into place. Just before we started recording this, we were talking about the pieces of the puzzle that you just meet these people and you're introduced and you attract them into your life as well. And that's exactly what happened. Once this began, and it was like a Steven Spielberg movie, within a week of that prayer, when this started happening to me, I was being introduced to people that would just happen in my life. For example, I was at a doctor's appointment and my wife was with me. And we're sitting there and we're talking about everything that just happened. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I feel so crazy. What's going on here? I got psychic stuff. And all of a sudden, a woman who was in the waiting room comes and she scoots over by us and she taps me on the shoulder. She said, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to overhear your conversation, but I did. And I have to tell you something. What happened to you is you went through a spiritual awakening. And I went, what? You know what's going on with me? She says, absolutely. And from that point, she guided me. She guided me to the Edgar Cayce studies. She said, go study Edgar Cayce material. It'll give you a firm footing and a foundation for what you're going to be doing, and start having faith and trust that you're going to be guided every step of the way. That's what I was originally told while this was happening to me. But how was I going to be guided? What was all of a sudden an actor? I'm doing a part and he's turning around and is going to tell me, you need to go and learn how to be psychic. No, that wasn't going to happen. That was written in the script, that's for sure. And so I had no idea that this was going to happen like that. And so every step of the way I was brought somewhere. Now, here's the interesting thing. It would have been a lot easier if I went along with it. But I was so resistant to it. Because I was determined I wanted to be a full-time actor. I wanted to get a Tony, an Oscar, and an Emmy. That's really what my goal was as an actor. And so when I was being told I'm going to be a spiritual teacher and all of a sudden this psychic stuff's happened to me, no, those were the loonies in California with the psychic, the sign. Or what am I supposed to do? Put a palm up on the highway, next to Sister Sarah. There's going to be my cousin Vinny readings. You know what I mean? It's like, give me a break. That wasn't in my future, not my plan anyway. So I resisted. But the more I resisted, the more I was being pushed into it, the more I kept meeting people. So then all of a sudden, somebody came up to me and said, you need to do some psychic readings. Psychic readings? How do I do that? And they said, well, go learn tarot. Really easy. So as soon as they turn around and they tell me that, the local metaphysical bookstore just happened to be giving a tarot card class right at that time that somebody told me to take tarot card lessons. So I said, all right, I'll take this class. So that's how I started. I started doing readings with tarot cards. All of a sudden, I found myself involved in it was a weekly psychic fair in New Jersey at the time, right? And we were going along. If anybody knows New Jersey, there's exits. We always, discuss where you live by the exit off of Garden State Parkway, exit 9 off of New Jersey Turnpike, right? So we were going different exits every Sunday from the north all the way down to the south. And all these people kept coming to me and coming to me and coming to me more than the other ones who were experienced. I'm like, what is going on? So I started to do it part-time. I started doing it part-time. I still was pursuing and determined to be an actor. I didn't want to do that. All of a sudden, fate brought me into a car accident that kept me. I was injured. I could no longer do the work that I was doing. I actually had an entertainment business while I was pursuing my acting career. And so I was doing that work. Now I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't know what to do. And I happened to be talking with one of my clients that came to me every single month at that one location. And all of a sudden he said, why don't you go back to school and become a psychotherapist? I gain more from you than I do my own therapist. I go back to school. Are you kidding me? I'd have to go right from the beginning because even though I won a scholarship to one of the most well-known universities on Long Island, Hofstra University, for theater, for acting, I gave it up because I didn't think that an actor needed to go to college back then. Remember, I'm an old codger. So back in the 70s, actors didn't go to college. When you wanted to become an actor, you took acting classes in New York City, right? Or if you lived in California, you took them there. And so it pushed me into going back to school. My wife turned around and said, that's a great idea. So I started going back full time. And so she was the only income with 2 kids, and we struggled. It took me 7 years to get both degrees, and then we were moving to North Carolina. And so little at a time, I started getting more involved in it, but I was doing psychotherapy. And my supervisors always said to me, Vince, You got a sixth sense about diagnosing your client. You can diagnose them within 5 minutes of meeting them accurately. Usually it takes about a week or two of working with them before you actually give a diagnosis, but you are so accurate with your diagnosis. You got a sixth sense about this. And I'm going, oh yeah, I guess it's a sixth sense. I don't know. That was the psychic part that was coming in, right?
Yeah.
So I just kept giving into it a little at a time, a little at a time. That kept introducing me to elsewhere, to other people, until this wound up happening. And believe it or not, here I was. Now I'm a hospice social worker. I'm doing my readings part-time. I got into the work more, and I became a hospice social worker for over here in North Carolina. And I was getting discouraged there because it was turning into a real business. I couldn't help my clients the way I wanted to because they didn't care. They just wanted me to pull in numbers, right? It's all about money. And I was in another car accident. Now, I was the one bullied and picked on in school. The only 3 times a pretty young blonde hit on me was in their car, smashed into mine. Okay. And that's how I got hit on. So I'm in a car accident. It wasn't my fault. I'm on workers' comp. I'm out. I have brainstem injury. I can't no longer work as a hospice social worker, but can't work in North Carolina as a social worker, period, because you need a driver's license. You need to be able to drive here in order to get a job in my field, because you have to be able to do outreach with clients, right? So now I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. Boom, falls into my lap the first time I see an email, become a mover and shaker, a course that Hay House was giving up in Boston. I said, mover and shaker, I like that. And I was guided there, and the rest is history. They taught me how to build my platform. I started getting phone calls without advertising at all to do readings. Then I started getting invitations to do speaking engagements. And then I took the brakes off. And I said, if this is what I meant to do, then so be it. I give into it 100% full time. Take me the rest of the way, and the rest is history. And here I get to meet somebody like you. Even had a chance to work with Tyler several years ago, right? At an event there, about UFOs. And it's just the rest is history. And that's what's meant by surrendering. You don't surrender your desires. You surrender where you think you're supposed to be going, because we are as humans interpreting. Now, I have to say, as an actor, that helped give me the confidence and the ability that I have today to get in front of people and speak, or to do all the media interviews that I'm doing, right? That gave me ability. So I totally understand why I did that first. It was a training for me to be able to do this work, because I'm very intense in the work that I do at this. And those that come and see me at the PSI event, all right, they're going to get an experience of that, because it's important for me to reach people and to get in there deep. And that takes intense work, but it's loving. I do it lovingly, and I do it with such passion that people trust me, and they open up their heart to me as well as their mind. Well, they don't have a choice. I get in there. As long as they're in the event, I'm in their mind. So that's it. That could be dangerous. Let me tell you something, and tell you, the only mind I don't want to get into is my wife's. I do not want to know what she's thinking at all. Not at all. So that's how I got here. Okay.
Wow, that's an incredible story. And I want to jump back on something that you said about, you had a spiritual awakening. I think one of the beautiful things is, especially now in this time, you have a lot of people have spiritual awakenings. But I think also what's really scary is that you have also people who are having spiritual emergencies. And then you also have people who legitimately have some sort of psychic break. I mean, psychosis or, psychotic break or something of that nature. And so with you having the background that you have, because I have this conversation, I've met some folks where, it's hard to tell. You're like, is this person really having an awakening, or they're so frantic right now? Are they having a crisis, or did this really happen at all? or, like,
Yeah.
and how do you, with your background, really, gauge that?
And you've called it, I saw the spiritual, or a transformative spiritual experience, which I think is a powerful way.
Yes. It's either people have near-death experiences, but also if you have a spiritual transformative event, they also consider that like a near-death experience, because you have such a big change. Okay. Well, everything that you were saying is really important to understand. And I'm going to throw in some other people, the ones that want to believe that they're at this level or that they have these abilities. And that all comes from a need, a really deep need. This was what really was important to me. And I'm actually going to be talking about this at the Psi event. And it's about becoming unstoppable, what's holding you back. And I wrote an entire book about this. The problem is that people don't really know what they believe about themselves, because that's been hidden. Very early on in your life, you start forming your first set of self-beliefs, and you form those beliefs based on the information that you're receiving from your environment, the adults in your life, the circumstances, all sorts of things like that, even your siblings or other people around you, right? You start forming those self-beliefs, and they can be pretty negative in there. They can be pretty negative. And so what winds up happening is that your brain needs to protect you, because you can't walk through life and function as an adult with all these negative self-beliefs. So you're shielded. They're repressed and suppressed way deep down inside of you. So here you are trying to walk around now being compensated with a new set of beliefs, right? So not to walk around with the I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not deserving. You may even have a belief like, oh, I'm great at this. I'm fabulous. Some of those grandiose ideas. Narcissism actually comes not from a place of a person who thinks that they really are great or believes that. It's actually from a person who believes so little of themselves that their brain has to compensate and create a complete opposite self-belief in order to allow them to function on a daily basis. So narcissism, let's say, is sort of like a coping mechanism, because otherwise that person would be severely depressed. And when their defense mechanism wanes a little or weakens at all, then you see them very depressed, okay? So now you get these people and you're thinking these grandiose ideas. Do you remember seeing American Idol? It's still on TV now, right? You watch the auditions and you will get some actual incredible singers in there, right? And every so often they throw in for laughs these people who think they're unbelievable singers, and you have to plug up your ears while they're singing, right? They think they're fabulous. Why is that? Well, the exact same thing is happening in the spiritual realm. And because of all these television shows now, Long Island Medium and Tyler, the Celebrity Medium, and all of those things that are on TV, they're coming out of the woodwork. Everybody is thinking that they're psychics, they're mediums, they're hearing all sorts of things, that God speaks to them on a daily basis. Jesus is channeling through them, and they're able to do all sorts of things. But the problem is not all of that is actually true. And you have to always examine where the person is coming from. Because I had been tormented when I was young, and because this was happening to me and I was supposed to be using these tools to help others, I wanted to make sure I was pretty healed as best as I could. So I did tremendous work for 42 years, and I still work on myself to make sure that the damaged or the scarred part of me is not getting in the way of the spiritual part of me. That's what happens with a lot of people. So the intentions may sound good from people. Oh yeah, I'm a healer. Or it's just like people come to me and I can heal them. All I have to do is just, and you find that that's not true, that's not happening, or their own lives is so messed up. And so it's like, Dr. Heal Thyself. You have to walk your talk. talk. So the way I deal with it is first of all, I tell people all the time, make sure anybody you go to is walking their talk. If you know their life is more messed up than yours, don't seek advice from them. They're not going to give you anything that's legitimate. A matter of fact, it even states it in the Bible. There is a parable in the Bible that says there will be those who speak the right words. They even look the right way. They wear the right garments. They look beautiful. They look peaceful, but they're not, the words they speak are not in their hearts. So therefore, what they teach will fall by the wayside. It's actually so damaging. It's not just a matter of that people won't go to them. No, it's just the opposite. People will go to them, listen to them, and even if it begins to help people a little bit, it's going to collapse. It's going to fail because the words are weak. And when the words have no sustenance to them, the meaning has no sustenance, and eventually it falls apart. That's why we have thousands of these spiritual teachers out there, and yet, why is the world still all screwed up? Why is it going to hell in a handbasket? Why are we having all of these problems that we're having today? This isn't new information. This has been practiced for thousands of years, and still yet we haven't gotten it because they're not walking their talk. So when I teach my classes, I make sure that people are going to walk their talk, that you learning from me, you're learning this, you've got to apply it. You know, I might be able to start and the sparks and the pilot light inside of your gut, but you've got to put the logs on that fire. And I'm going to tell you what's getting in the way and what's helping you both ways. But I've got to do that work first. So that to me is the most important, reliable thing. And then you don't have all this grandiose stuff. And it's a new spiritual phenomena that is going around out there now, because you will hear some of the most amazing things. And I don't like talking against anybody, but if I knew a psychotherapist who was harming people, I would bring that up to a point too. So there are spiritual teachers, so-called spiritual teachers, psychics, that are harming people. They're distracting them from the work that they really need to do by giving them some of these ridiculous ideas that go absolutely nowhere. And it just keeps people from getting further in their growth and their evolvement.
I think that I want to hit on that really quick, because that speaks to me a lot. And in this idea that, I've been practicing yoga for a while now, and I have a really great teacher. Actually, he'll be speaking at the Psy Games and doing a class.
Oh, great.
And one of the things he said that sat with me is he said, people will often want to heal, but seek out dysfunction to fit with their dysfunction. So they'll seek out healing by looking for, and inadvertently they will find dysfunction. And because really they need that dysfunction to keep functioning properly, which kind of hints on what you were saying. And so he draws this kind of idea of the power CEO driving down the road with his in his red Corvette with the top down and his triple shot of espresso, going to his power yoga class. And then he goes to work and he says, I'm super calm and I'm super focused and I'm this really calm guy because I do yoga. But really all he did was he found the yoga that matches his, the thing that that he needs to work on. And so I watched it and then take that into a show that I watched about this yogi who became really popular, and he was teaching these people. And, I'm watching this Netflix series or this Netflix movie, and this yogi is walking around telling people they're lazy and they're fat and they're ugly and they're this and they're that. And he's getting up in people's faces and he's sitting down and all these people are like, he's like a rock star. He's like this, he's like that. And it's very clear for us watching this show. Now, maybe it could have been the Netflix producers made it look really cool, made it look that way so that we saw that. But it seemed very clear that he was not walking the walk. He was not this enlightened being, but yet these people were like, he's so enlightened, he's so this. And it was very clear that he was speaking to a part of their dysfunction that they really needed to feed. And that's why they were following this gentleman.
I love the way you put that, is that their dysfunction finds dysfunction. What I say is like attracts like, and you're attracted to it. You're drawn to it because there's that part of you, and because everything is about energy. So if there is negative going on inside of you, I'm telling you right now, that's what I tell everybody is like, if you want the negativity to stop in your life, if you want all of these people who are abusing you to stop attracting them into your life, stop abusing yourself, stop having that negativity, and you'll stop attracting them. But you're absolutely right. And then just because they'll attend a conference, they've got all the books on the shelves like crazy, even more than what I have on the shelf. They think they're the most enlightened people, and yet they have no relationship, no stable one. They've been married 3 times. They're living with all of this financial issues, health problems. They have no friends. It's just like, but meanwhile, they're spiritual. Hello, that's not going hand in hand. This is like the vibration there is not matching what you're supposedly saying. But we are given the eyes and we are giving the ears and the knowing to be able to distinguish those people if you just listen. Look at all of the people who follow the cult leaders. Not one of them was a stable person, were they? It was always somebody that had some horrible trauma in their background. They felt abandoned and alone. And it wasn't that the teacher sought them out. Right? This is what I mean about the law of attraction. They were in the path of that person, that cult leader, to be able to find them to start with. And they needed that. And that's what happens with those people that have a weak sense of self. They're going to find and bring into their life that person who's going to supposedly uplift them, but actually be even weaker than them and worse than them. And then we know what happens from that point on, right? So yes, that's another way of finding it. Dysfunction finds dysfunction.
Wow.
Without a doubt. But this is why I love the fact that you invited me to speak at this event, and why this event to me is so important, because what you're doing is you're setting such a stable foundation. You're starting out with wanting to give these people who are beginners, or even people who have more experience in it and want to evolve even more, you're helping them get a real true understanding of what they need to learn. And I've seen some of the speakers that you have there, which is going to be so fabulous. That's what was given to me. I told you I was directed to Edgar Casey material to give me a firm foundation, so I didn't go off into that craziness and that need to believe that I was more than. Even now, I still have. And even Edgar Casey himself, which is why I loved his work so much, is he went to his mom at a very early stage of doing these readings, and he just said to her, and they were very strong Baptists at the time, right? Very religious. And he said, "Mom, what happens if I'm hurting people, or if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm going to abuse this? I doubt so much at times." And she said, "Just the mere fact alone that you said that, and that you have that doubt in your heart, that's what's going to keep you from doing that, because you care enough." It's the ones that have no doubt that you have to worry about. There's a difference between having strong faith and having no doubt. Okay. Even the best of the spiritual leaders, Jesus himself, supposedly, right, the God incarnate here, the absolute example of what God life is in our own divinity right here, he had doubt. Right? He had doubt right away. He doubted in the Garden of Gethsemane. He doubted his walk through the desert before his mission. He wasn't tempted by the devil. Those were his own inner demons that he was facing before he started his work and his mission. He was petrified as to doing the wrong thing, using his power the wrong way. And then even in the last moments, he's up there, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" He even had doubt. So doubt lets you know that we're in a human life and a human existence. We're meant to have some doubt. We're not meant to have all the answers here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come down here. If you want all the answers and know everything upside down and inside out, you stay on the other side, because that's where all the answers are. We purposely come down here to discover and to gain more of that enlightenment and evolvement, you know? So even the idea of having to evolve to the fifth dimension, I'm going to start levitating. There is a joke that I tell everybody, if you don't mind me sharing, which is really funny. So this Swami dies, this guru dies, and he's now in heaven and he's talking with God. Oh, God, this last life, it was so magnificent. You'd be so proud of me. He said, I learned so much. I spent years and years to clear my heart, my intentions. And so I finally was able to levitate myself. And I was able to levitate and float across the lake with no problem, because I cleared everything. And God looks at him and says, big shit, for $5, you could have taken the ferry. You know? There are things we don't need to be doing in this physical world. And there are things we do need to be doing. So knowing that we're more than is important, but accomplishing everything that soul can do in this life, we're not meant to do that. We're meant to at least get on the pathway to it, to at least understand and acknowledge, oh my gosh, yeah, I can be that. I can manifest more. And the funny thing, it's not in the manifesting that matters. It's in the belief and the attempt to try to manifest, and knowing that you can, that's what matters. You know, and that's why even the spiritual leaders said, there will always be the poor. And they will always be the poor, so that you can turn around and want to do something to help them. That's what matters. The poor don't matter. What matters is you caring about them. That matters. That's what really matters. And you don't know if they chose to be poured down on this life, so you can discover your own compassion and empathy. So people need to understand why we're learning this stuff to start with, so that we can have better lives than we're living right now. That's for sure. And to heal this world, because it starts with the individual. Well, you got me on a soapbox now.
Well, I think you're really discussing too, like mindset. And I think when we were talking about the Psy games, Hakeem and I were talking about this in the last episode about how remote viewers, when you first try it, it's like beginner's luck. They don't know what they're doing. They're going into this. They do a great job. And then maybe like third or fourth time, the ego kicks in where they're like, oh, I got this, you know? So I wonder, for people who may be exploring psychic phenomenon or trying the Psy games or trying to, you know, see where their abilities at, what do you think is the best mindset to have to like go into exploring this?
That's a really good question. Certainly the mindset you want to have is I can't do this. Okay. As soon as you say, I can't do that, you just put an entire restriction on that channel with inside of you. So I can do this. I can do this. It's a part of who I am, because we all are given that ability and gift. So let me see what I can do with it, and let's see. And so you always want the idea of to keep trying, to not give up on anything that we do, right? You just don't give up on it because you're having a hard time with it. But actually, the more you try to make something happen when it comes to psychic ability or mediumship ability, the less you're going to be able to pull in, because it is so natural. Okay. You just allow the words to come to you. So the real good mindset is, I'm going to allow to happen to me whatever is going to happen. And I trust and I have faith in it. So you want to trust that it's okay. Don't come into this with such great anticipation, or worse yet, compare yourself to somebody else. Okay.
Right.
I even did that. I was like, who am I as a psychic? Look at those great ones up there. Or who am I as a medium? Wow. You got James Van Praagh out there. You had John Edwards at my time. Those were the two famous ones at that time. Now you got some other ones. And I will admit, there's some really good mediums out there and psychics out there. But I also look at what I'm using the tools for. That's the other mindset. Why do you want to tap into your innate abilities? Why do you want to tap into this psychicness? Do you want to tap into it to impress? Do you want to tap into it to prove something to yourself? Or do you want to tap into the greatest guidance system you have so that you can grow more and be all you're meant to be? That's the mindset you want to have. And you don't want to be coming in thinking you're abnormal. You want to come thinking that it is quite normal. We wouldn't be 11,000 years old as a species if we didn't work off of intuition. Don't get hung up on the labels. You know, everybody says psychic, 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 and right away we think the loonies from California.
Miss Cleo's and yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, here's what's really funny. I started getting involved in more of, ufology. By the way, is it UApology now?
Yeah.
Is that?
It's just UAP, you know.
UAP,
now we're coming back into the psychic stuff, so it's coming full circle.
You know, now that you say it, you do owe me an apology. No.
Absolutely, right? Well, there was a guy interviewed on News Nation, fabulous, Jake Barber. Wait, say that again. Jake
Barber,
right. Okay. Yep. There were so many of them. I'm like trying to put their names together, right? And now, because the scientists are involved in it and even the government is involved in it, they still don't call them psychics. It's psionic. It's psionic. So that's even better. So now I'm a psionic or remote viewing. Now, here's the funny thing about remote viewing. Okay. You have to use your psychic ability to be a remote viewer. But because the government took it and because it started there, they wanted to keep it as scientific as possible. So they don't call it psychic ability. All right. I actually began, as soon as this happened for me, the Rhine Institute, right, that Tyler was involved with, had a satellite office in Princeton, New Jersey. And there was one of the doctors who helped to develop the Gansfeld experiments, which was about remote viewing, okay, but encapsulated in cutting off all of your sensory perception and everything. And they had somebody who was going to project something and then a receiver. So a transmitter and a receiver. And they were doing these experiments. And this particular doctor was under the belief that an outgoing personality had more psychic ability or was more in their intuition. Well, of course, if you're more emotional, you're in your right brain. Your right brain is intuition, nurturing, creativity, and emotions. So if you're more outgoing and you're in touch with your emotions, you're going to be more in touch with your intuition. So I saw that they were looking for candidates to do research on it. So right away, I was so excited about that. So I went down, they had me do it. All right. So they get a guy, some other guy. I didn't bring a partner with me. They had somebody else, is in one big giant safe that they close off and they keep sound from coming in there other than a little TV set that was going to be showing a computer random video. And then me with golf balls in my eyes and tape everywhere and headphones on. I was only able to hear them and all the lights, everything was black. And so I'm sitting in this safe, just about being able to breathe. Thank God I didn't have claustrophobia. And they wanted me to just start speaking what I felt was coming to me. So I started describing an image, and then I kept describing image upon image upon image. So I didn't know. I was just going with it, whatever popped into my mind. All right, they come in, they pull me apart. I come out there, and the scientist is staring at me. And I said, oh, did I do bad? I said, did you do bad? Not only did you describe accurately what he was viewing, you described every other scene on that particular video. I said, seriously? And they said, would you come back again and do it again? And I said, sure, absolutely. I went back a second time. The second time, not only did I describe what was on that particular VHS tape, I described what was on all their VH tapes in that study, in that office. And so they asked if I would be able to teach how to be outgoing, to see if that would influence people being able to do this, because they saw me as somebody who was really able to do this extremely well. So I was written up, even though my name is excluded, in the Parapsychology Journal. And that doctor, also that famous doctor, wound up dying. And so the program stopped in New Jersey, and I didn't have the opportunity to teach. I came over to the Rhine Institute when I moved down here and met John, but I never had the opportunity of going back there. But that's how I started out. Besides, before I even did private readings and partial reading, was doing remote viewing like that. And it was amazing the way it comes in. So I just tell people to come in with an open mind, have no predisposition as to what's going to happen. Just know that it's going to be natural. You're going to be okay. You're going to have fun. And the more fun you have with it, the more open you are. That's why children are very psychic, because they haven't been taught to shut down their receptors. They haven't been taught all that negativity. So they automatically will sit there and talk with an imaginary friend, not so imaginary. A lot of guides that work with children and angels and stuff like that. I know my own grandson, extremely psychic, and I know he came into this family so that I can help guide him. He just very amazing at 3 and 3.5 years old. So this is going to happen for people now more than it is ever happened before. So enjoy. That's why you call it games. I love that you put games at the end of that, because and you said the whole premise of this is to make it more acceptable and enjoyable. And let me tell you something: if there's any teens out there that have any type of psychic ability, and you say this is going to be a game, they're going to be there. Just let them know that there's no remote control involved.
Yeah. We are going to be the remote controls.
Absolutely,
So,
without a doubt.
I love what you're saying, and I think you're saying so much. You're just really just going, and I love that about you. And one of the things that I think that you could speak to really well is the idea of why we have the psychic games, why we have the psi games, and why this idea of putting people in this position where they can have fun with this, they can play with it, and then also why now is the time. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Why this time right now is very important, because, and then I'm going to cut you off when you get started, because I also have received not me personally, 2 friends of mine received messages, and then I found, and then I was like, whoa, these 2 different people from 2 different backgrounds don't know each other, had the same message. So let me stop there, because I'm going to cut you off somewhere in there, and I'm going to tell the story. But go ahead. You tell me why now is very important.
Well, the simple answer to that, Hakeem, is because we are in the worst time of the history of the world, is right now. Literally, we are reliving a Sodom and Gomorrah. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah was 2 messages behind there. One, what we're capable of doing with the God force. Just like Star Wars, the Force, right? George Lucas was very metaphysical. I actually met him indirectly and learned and always believed he was metaphysical. And it's true, and very spiritual in nature. And the Star Wars saga is actually the story of us and our relationship with the God force. And you can either use it to build or to destroy. Okay. Well, in Sodom and Gomorrah, because of all the negativity, the hatred, the anger that was going on back then, the killing of each other, the sexual deviations, all of that was going on, that negative, that being attached to that force was about ready to come down on them and affect the earth all around them and eventually destroy them. So it wasn't God that was going to destroy them. That was message 1, our capacity to destroy ourselves. And so what happened? The angel goes to Lot and says, wake up. 11 people, because God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But if you can wake up 11 people spiritually, their positive strength will overpower the more negative strength. So that's lesson 2, critical mass. It does not take a larger number of positive to overcome a number of negative, because positive is more powerful than negative. That's why you have one proton with all electrons in the atom floating around it. That proton is positive charge, the electron is negative charge, and the positive is holding the negative to it because it's so powerful. So critical mass, you only need a small amount of positive to overtake a large amount of negative. So right now we're going through the destruction of this earth. We see it. This is unprecedented. If anybody wants to say, oh, we've had crises before, nothing like this. We used to have a crisis, then maybe 10 years go by, people are getting back on their feet again. Maybe they learned something, but most of the time we haven't. And then maybe another crisis. This is crisis after crisis after crisis. When was the last time you heard an entire city burning down to the ground over in California, Palisades, the Pacific Coast, Palisades over there, and Los Angeles area? When did we hear that? Or all the other fires that took place, all the devastating earthquakes, all one right after another. It's because of what? The bombing, the fighting, the killing, the hatred, the racism, the bigotry, all of that's going on down here on this planet. We're energies, and we're creating all of this negative force and this negative power. So now is the most critical time that we wake up that spirit within inside of us. Okay, how are we going to do that? Not by focusing on the negative, but by focusing on the positive, therefore the games. Turn this into something that we could have fun at, so that it doesn't seem like a college course on psychic ability 101. And then at the end, you're going to take a test. And if you fail, well, then you don't have any psychic ability, and you're a blank creek without a paddle. No, we're going to do it in a fun way, an enjoyable way, an enticing way. Bring people in to open up that ability, because that is your greatest central guiding force within you. We are connected to the higher force, to the God force, all of that in your higher, your oversoul, shall we say. That's what Edgar Cayce said. You're only in essence here in this incarnation, then your oversoul, your big oversoul is in the other dimensions, and you're a piece of that in each lifetime that comes down. But you're connected through your soul's mind to that higher force. By opening that channel to your soul's mind, you can receive, not just talk to dead people. That's okay, that's great, and that's wonderful, and I use that as a tool to help others and to heal others. But the psychic part is for guidance. What should I be doing today? What's my next step in my journey here? Or I've got these two opportunities in front of me. Do I take A? Do I take B? And you sit there and you open up that channel. You can even do automatic writing. Once that channel, it begins to open up, you'll hear responses instantaneously before you even finish the answer. And that gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense of control. You begin to realize you're more than just this physical being. If you can receive guidance from another dimension, that means you're more than. You're more than just this. You're more than just having to ask your best friend, who also life is totally screwed up, for the answers, or your parents who caused you dysfunction to start with. Not all parents cause dysfunction, but they have. And so you've got this greatest built-in tool that now more than ever you want the answers to, because everybody else is confused. Everybody else is trying to find their own ways. This is the greatest way for you to find the answers, is going within, because you have them. If you have the question, you have the answer. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come up with the question. Think about this for a moment. Before there was TV, nobody sat there wondering, as they're listening to the radio, I wonder if there could be TV. It wasn't until there was a TV or somebody showed that there could be a TV that you questioned it. Does it really work? If it's black and white, can you make it in color? But before that, you didn't question it all. So therefore, the answer has to be inside of you to come up with the question, including they didn't come up with the TV without the design of it being inside of them to start with and everything else. Plato said that in his theory of forms, right? He said that about that you cannot, the only reason why we can create this cup is because a form of it exists in a dimension someplace else, and you're tapping into that and bringing it in. Well, the answer to your entire life is in another dimension, and all you have to do is open the gateway to get those answers, and you wouldn't be confused for the rest of your life by tapping into this now.
Oh, wow. So I had, going off of what you were saying, I had three friends actually. So, but two just very recent. So I'm in contact, and I have a friend whose daughter was one of the young ladies who was research for the documentary that will come out, the telepathy tapes. They already have the podcast, but the documentary, and she and I are going to work on, the mother and I are going to work on something, and then also with the daughter. And she was saying, she was like, I normally don't do really public things like this because, it's just uncomfortable, and people, feel certain ways about my daughter's ability and about my ability because she could see without her eyes. And she was like, but my daughter just recently told me that she's in communication with an angel. And that angel mentioned to her that now is the time for her to be out there showing her abilities and inspiring people, because the angels want us to rise up and become stronger and grow in our consciousness because for some reason, right? 2 days later, I'm on the phone with another friend who's a psychic medium like yourself. And we're talking about the side games, and we're going through some stuff. And she was like, I just had this angel come to me recently, and this angel was saying that we need to prepare and we need to grow our skills, almost verbatim what this other lady said. And I was just like, well, and they don't know each other. And the chances of me talking to both of them within 2 days of each other was also a mystery, that's very, very rare. And it was just mind blowing. It was mind blowing.
Of course, it's mind blowing.
It seems like this is a time now. Like I was telling you, the side games came as a download, and I was like, no, I have too much other things going on, and this seems so new and it's so big, and it just seems like it's just out of my league, and all the reasons why I can't do this and I shouldn't do it, right? And then it just kept popping up. Every time I would think I'd let it go, something would happen and it would pop back up as the answer. Like you said, without the question or without the idea, the answer is there, it's in you. So it just kept popping up, and the side games was the answer to it. And finally, I was just like, well, okay, let me take this on. I'm going to talk to some people and see what happened. And one of the first people I talked to was Jeffrey Mishlove, who you know well. And he says, we tried this like 40, 50 years ago, and it wasn't the time then, but I think it's the time now. I would support you if you did this. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And so then I talked to another person, and they said the same thing. And I talked to another person. They said the same thing. And I was just like, what is happening? Right. Before you know it, I have a hotel and a website, and there's people that I've made connections with. Like you and I met randomly at, through some friends at Contact in the Desert, which I wasn't even supposed to be at. I came there out of whim to support, Paul Smith, my teacher, my remote viewing teacher, then found out that my close friend, Chris Bledsoe, was there. And then that's how we met. And then we lived both in North Carolina. And now here you are in the side games, and we're having this, again, all of these magnificent connections, almost as though like what my friend, well, not almost, I'll say exactly like what my friend was saying with these angels. This angel was telling her about getting us all to come together, all these people with these abilities to come together and start to work on this because this is the time. Now is the time for us to raise up.
That's right.
In a new level of consciousness, to a new level.
And there's always been an angel since the history. There's always a recorded, information about angels appearing and coming down and giving and letting, like the angel that went to Lot. And even an angel went to Jesus to wake him up and say, okay, it's time. And angels come when it's necessary, including Chris that you have coming, and he's going to be presenting. He's one of your keynote speakers, which is fabulous. And he received the same message. And it's this year and next year. And I actually hate doing predictions. George Norrie has had me on Coast to Coast forever on January 1st to give predictions. I stopped wanting to do that. You know why? Because there were about a handful of the positive predictions, and it was constant, always devastation. I predicted the pandemic. I called it a plague. I said there's going to be a plague, and it's going to go worldwide. It's going to be devastating. It's going to kill many people. And I told them, I said, if you are negative and sickly to start with, then chances are you're going to get sicker or die. And if you at least are a positive person and you're on a spiritual path of some kind, you may get sick, but you won't get that sick. I told people what they needed to do. And I'm so tired of telling about the negative. But yes, there is a higher consciousness. And I don't want my group of people, my colleagues, I call them, the other metaphysicians and luminaries, shall I say, that are constantly feeding everybody that everything is going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're all with it. This consciousness is getting higher and higher and higher. There is no guarantee to everything being okay. Everybody needs to know that. It's an individual healing that is going to lead to the group healing, which is going to lead to the earth healing. But it's got to start with the individual, and you've got to do the work. It's not happening for us. That's what a lot of people are thinking from some of these messages that they're receiving. So that's why I love that you're doing this. And of course, the universe is going to conspire to help you with this. Oh, wait, guys, girls, come on over here. Hakeem down there. We got this idea. What a great idea. What a great way to pull in those people. He's making them games. They're going to come. They just finished watching the Super Bowl. Yeah, they were really upset about that turnout. But this game's going to be really good, man. They're going to use a sense of themselves, their extra talent, their greatest talent. Let's see what happens. And so, yes, whichever way it's going to, I teach classes all the time. And mostly because constantly people are asking me, when are you going to teach your next class? When are you going to teach your next class? But each class, I keep it down to 10 to 12 people so that I can give them, one-on-one work with them. I'm not a recording. There's no recordings done. And that people just watch the recording and that's it. It's live, right? But to do this is even better because of the number of people you can reach. And when you get that gathering, it actually works even better because your neighbor's energy, as he or she is raising their energy and are experiencing their things, are helping the person next to them experience theirs. And that happens everywhere. I went to Arthur Findlay because I wanted to perfect my abilities. And, as a psychotherapist, we always took CEUs, right? Continuing education units to learn more about psychotherapy and keep our practice up. How do you do that as a psychic and a medium, right? You keep taking classes. Well, I was doing, as soon as I wanted to do that, I want to learn, I want to become as good as I can. Right away, I was directed to somebody who happened to be a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College of Psychic Sciences in Stansted, England. So I went there and I went 2 different years and took week course there, which was phenomenal. I learned from some of the best tutors. But when I went with the intention of, I know nothing, teach me what I'm supposed to know. And that's how you have to. And so even for your people that come in that feel they have a lot of experience but want to participate in this, come in with the idea that just shelve what you think you know, right? And learn like you're learning all over again. I promise you, you're going to be gaining more from that without any preconceived ideas. My wife She loves the work I do. She's with me at every event. You're going to meet her because she's going to be at that event with me. She's my business manager. She's always talking with the people too, and she shares the same information, but she does not want to get up on a stage and experience it at all that way. But she decided to come with me one year to Arthur Findlay, and she took a beginning course. Well, she went with a complete open mind. And she had such profound experiences. At the end of the week, the students in her class wanted her to give them readings. And so, because she had such amazing experiences, and she didn't prejudge them, and she was very, very confident enough to allow herself to experience whatever was going to experience. She didn't walk in there with doubt and skepticism. You know, yes, there's going to be some people who come in. Healthy skepticism or doubt is okay, just like I said that with Edgar Casey. But when you come in with the attitude of prove this to me, refund them the money, send them out the door, because it ain't going to work. They're not going to experience, and then they're going to think, this is nonsense, this is baloney. But anything they try in life doesn't work because they have the same attitude towards that too. So come in with that open mind. I'm telling you, you're going to experience it. And now is the most important point. You're going to get more messages, and you're going to see more opportunities of these types of conferences happening, because we need to reach as many people as possible. This month, I've had nothing but messengers come to me, because part of my other job is waking up the messengers that came here to purposely be a spiritual teacher and healer. And they all come with the same exact feeling. And I see so much of the same skills and talent and intention in them. And so, yes, you're going to see a lot of the messengers being drawn to these things, and they're going to tell you, right? They're going to say, Hakeem, thank you so much for creating this, man, because I was looking for something. I didn't know where to go. I always thought that I was crazy, but I knew something was inside of me. I was different. I was always different. I didn't tell my parents, or when I did, they said that I was crazy. Just don't worry about it. And you've given me the opportunity. You're going to hear that over and over and over again. And that's what fuels you to say, I like this. So when you say that this might have been more than what you were thinking, you're not done. This is just the beginning for you, my friend, because you decided to be used as a tool, and the universe takes advantage of all of us who say, here I am, use me. So just watch and see what happens to you even after this. Enjoy this one, but get used to it.
Well, with that, Vincent, that you've said so much. We're at our hour, but I truly appreciate knowing you and having you here, and even hearing you even more so tonight. I'm even more excited. You're in wealth of knowledge. It just shows, it just exudes from every inch of your body. I could see it from this side of the screen, and I'm glad to have you. And I know people are going to enjoy learning from you as many have in the past. So thank you once again for being with us on Side Games Talks. And we'll see you soon, buddy.
We will see you soon. And thank you for having me, Hakeem. It's an honor for me to be a part of this. So I'm thrilled. I can't wait. Wait. I might even play in the game too. I don't know. And I'll be testing myself, and oh God, no, forget it. I don't like testing myself. No, I'm that guy.
Step into the beyond.
Soon.
Let your mind ignite, where the limits dissolve in the glow of the light. A world unseen, we will rise to explore, unlocking the depths of our universal core.